Thank you so much for having me. I very much appreciate it. I love this. In a classic car, it's so fun. I did bring you a copy of my book, From Hoodies to Suits.
Thank you very much.
I hope that you enjoy it. The goal of the book is so people understand the benefits of this technology and what it means for them. I think people will always be important because in financial transactions, for example, I would like to trust who I'm working with, and in business transactions, I would think as well, right? So technology being the tool to help us get to a decision faster and have more data to make decisions, but then also, do I trust you that you're not going to run away with my money? I do think there will be increases in M&A in this technology space as it becomes more, people become more comfortable with it, and there's more revenue lines that are actually realized. I think ZK proofs are going to help. Zero knowledge proofs are going to help with the idea of protecting identities. I think that there's definitely benefits there.
Lead with vision, inspire with innovation. Enter the genius inside.
The first question is more of a kind of a personal question, is what's your take on the sustainability of mankind wanting to expand intelligence, be it organic or artificial? How sustainable do you think this is?
Well, you're diving right in.
Yeah, exactly.
On a totally different topic.
Yeah, but it's a really important topic.
So talking about AI, I do think there's huge benefits that artificial intelligence can bring us, just from an efficiency perspective. If we're looking at, so my past has been in traditional finance. I think there's a lot of ways we can synthesize data and learn from it and predict paths ahead. The idea of robots building robots and taking over mankind, I think that in my head and how I approach it, I don't necessarily think of it that way. I think of technology as a tool to help us. But it sounds like the question is really more steered towards technology taking over mankind. Was that kind of how you got it?
No, it's more about mankind trying to be smarter and smarter and doing a lot of what some people call human hacks, and some biohacks and some intelligence hacks. And there's genetics against artificial change, let's put it this way. That's one side. The other side is keeping up with artificial intelligence. I'm not sure that humans can keep up with artificial intelligence, and that is a lesson of humility as well, right?
Yes. There was Google's DeepMind solved a mathematical equation, and this was last December, I believe, that had never been solved before. And so the idea of how do we create kind of new information, that's a prime example of people could be able to understand the way that artificial intelligence, generative AI can work. So I look at it more as, how do we continue making strides? Obviously, kind of if we look on a graph of how innovation happens, it really is not a straight line. It's really, a direct, like an exponential curve.
Yes.
Of right now we can use AI to help write code, and it saves time in actually writing the code. We can approve the code, we can have people review it, but then it's just so much faster that it shows how much faster I think that technology will increase. So it goes to a bit of the ideas of making more, I guess, building and innovating.
And what would be a good advice for a young graduate, a young technology graduate, to take, just coming in and knowing that AI will code better than, eventually, not immediately, but eventually AI will code better than most humans, or all humans, let's say. What would be your advice for someone that just graduated out of college, out of a technology college?
I would learn, be curious. If you're interested, learn, read, study. There's so much out there, it's hard to be an expert. You can't be an expert in everything. And I also feel because of technology moving so quickly, you're not going to necessarily always know everything that's happening, but just learn and have an opinion, right? machines don't have opinions like we have opinions, and are able to, at this point at least, right, interpret data and apply that to other factors. I think people will always be important because in financial transactions, for example, I would like to trust who I'm working with, and in business transactions, I would think as well, right? So technology being the tool to help us get to a decision faster and have more data to make decisions, but then also, do I trust you that you're not going to run away with my money? So I feel that is helpful as well. So for younger graduates, I would think continue learning, but also that network of people, definitely continue to expand your network of people.
And based on your experience, finance experience and M&A experience, what do you see the benefits, and now going deeper into blockchain, the blockchain theme, what would you see as the biggest benefits for M&A and for building trust in finance and M&A?
So M&A, you definitely need trust, right? Because I feel like that's really a marriage, right? Whoever you're actually acquiring or buying, you're dealing with the people. Culture is one of the biggest reasons M&A has failed, is that two cultures of different companies don't merge or mix. So I think always getting to know whomever that is that you're looking at merging and recognizing what you're buying it for. I do think there will be increases in M&A in this technology space as it becomes more, people become more comfortable with it, and there's more revenue lines that are actually realized. Especially if you look at institutions want to actually buy a company as opposed to create the innovation inside. It's easier for them to do. So I do think that will definitely increase. But I would say absolutely do your homework, get to know the people that you're working with, get to really fully understand business lines, and always read the fine print.
Great. What would you say are the key insights from hoodies to suits?
So I wrote this book. I've been in this space since 2018. I did traditional finance prior, as I said, and I recognized at the time how great this technology is for upgrading finance. I don't think finance is broken, but similar to like high frequency trading, there's always ways that it can become more efficient, and different ways to look at it using technology. So I came up with the idea of actually writing a book just under 2 years ago. It was after FTX had failed. I was speaking to a bank that said they had a cease and desist, which is a legal term, so it wasn't really a cease and desist, from talking about anything on blockchain because of the FTX debacle. And to me, that was unfortunate, because FTX was bad actors. We have bad actors in the traditional world as well as in the crypto blockchain world. And my goal is really people to understand this technology and how it can benefit. And so at that time, that's when I decided, well, I had this book in my head and I wanted to write it. And so really the goal of the book is so people understand the benefits of this technology and what it means for them. So for typical finance people that think blockchain and crypto are the same thing, for them to differentiate and understand why the technology makes sense for institutions and money and investments, as well as data and supply chain and identity. But really to understand from a relatively basic level, and not as a textbook, something a little bit more fun and interesting to read. And so that was really the goal of the book.
Great. And what kind of I wouldn't say advice, but maybe recommendation or thoughts or thought-provoking questions would you instill, or would you ask a CEO that is really giving the first steps into blockchain and learning how blockchain can transform his organization from the trust, the traceability, the immutability? How would you engage with a CEO that is typically non-technical? Because that's the case of a lot of Portuguese CEOs.
I would say the first is identify your problems, right? And this isn't a technology looking for a problem to fix. I think you would find what is your issue, and will blockchain help assist in that problem. So to your point, that all of the efficiencies that it adds with traceability, I would think regulators would love this, because you can actually track and trace. It leaves a fingerprint everywhere you go. It can decrease time. So if you look at, saving costs and being more secure. I think that's a huge benefit as well. But it obviously doesn't fit for every problem that a CEO has within their business.
Great. Have you seen any blockchain projects that you'd say, now this is a great maverick approach to blockchain, or this is a great way of seeing it?
I love the idea of maverick approach because crypto is technically maverick.
Yeah.
So anything that is solving a real problem. I believe that digital money and programmable money will be one of the first rails that actually really benefits the ecosystem, and I think that will be done in so many different ways. So people that have created opportunities for that, like a Circle, that institutions can touch. I think there will be others as well that come along the way. I really like that PayPal has launched their stablecoin also, because that already goes into traditional rails. One of the problems I think that we have, or opportunities, is that having an easy, less clunky experience, and so you don't have to go and create your wallet, remember your passphrases, etc. That you can have something that you already recognize, and a way to sign in that you already know.
Great. And this is a great point. How do you balance the concerns of the consumer, especially privacy concerns, and the benefits of programmable money?
So I think there's, I think ZK proofs are going to help. Zero knowledge proofs are going to help with the idea of protecting identities. I think that there's definitely benefits there. There are concerns with CBDCs, which is central bank digital currencies, obviously, that you have the government knows where you're spending all your money and can cut it off or control it, which is really against the idea of what it's out there for. So I think there will be continued innovation in the idea of track of where we're moving that will be able to protect ideas of. We'll be able to contain some privacy while still confirming the information that they need to know, if that makes sense. So if I have a wallet that has $100 million in it, if I'm an institution, I don't want anyone to know that has so much money in it. How do we do that in a legal framework that is not, that does not help money laundering, for example?
Yeah, but then there's KYC and AML that really leads into disclosing all this information. So it's a bit of a paradox, right? So programmable money obviously has massive benefits, but also the consumer may be naturally concerned about just keeping his privacy. I think there's a cultural limitation to that, in the sense that some cultures are more open to mentees, or reverse mentoring, actually.
It's what it is.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Reverse mentoring, so that there's a flow of knowledge back and forth. And how would you change that cultural obstacle? Because those are really the hard ones, right?
Sure. I think cultural we are recording right now, aren't we?
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I think cultural obstacles are harder, but I think the benefit. How do you address a cultural obstacle that is not even kind of from an age generational perspective? I really have always had mentees, and from mentees I'll get a lot out of learning about how that generation thinks, how they work, how they react. I remember once, and one reason that highlighted this, I took over a very large group of millennials and Gen Zs, and I asked them to go for drinks. It was my first night out, and they generally said no, which was interesting because I'm in New York. I've been at the company. They already know who I am. I'm their new boss. I would always go out. If my boss said, let's go out for a drink after work, absolutely. Whatever I was doing, it didn't matter. I would go. And so that was an eye-opener to me, that this generation sees the world a little bit differently.
Exactly.
And they kind of worked as cats, as in, if the most of the people couldn't go, then some of them didn't want to go. And so then that helped me, actually, at the time within that industry, I started a young professionals organization, so I could get to know more about that generation, how they thought, because they're the ones that are going to come and take over the world, if you think about it. If we're thinking about kind of macro flows of money, even from a financial perspective, but also any business. Right now, there's more money in retail hands than there is in corporate. So globally, there's 51% of the wealth in yours and my pockets. and there's 49% in companies' pockets. And so the way that if we're looking to increase investments, we want to hit that retail sector. That retail sector is really millennial and Gen Z, because they will have more than the half the wealth, because the baby boomers, there's something called the Great Wealth Transfer, where the baby boomers are giving their money to millennial and Gen Z. So they will also have the money, but they're going to be the ones now that are also making the business decisions at those middle market, middle management, I guess, because millennials are now hitting 40 years old. So they're gonna so it's gonna change the way that I think business is approached. Millennial and Gen Z are very much more digital in nature than
True.
I am, for example, which is why I'm always trying to get that reverse mentoring in and understand how people think and why they're thinking that way. Also, these generations have been through COVID. They've been through different times in their with social media, etc.
Yeah,
and that shapes who they are, and that shapes who they are in the working world.
You've mentioned a very good expression. They're like cats, and actually I have a cat, and I usually use this expression for working with a group of competing law firms. Working with competing law firms is like herding cats. And what's your recipe for herding cats?
I do want to say I believe that millennial Gen Z absolutely are our future. So I'm not, there's no disrespect in any way here. But I am now running a team of people, and it's really important to empower everyone. So I want everyone to feel empowered. I want them to believe in themselves and make good decisions, right? And feel that anyone that is hired, we're really hired for them to have an opinion. And share that opinion. And so from a herding cats perspective, I guess I'm doing it each individually. That's where I'm going.
That's what I do.
As opposed to trying to teach everyone as a team. But I think it's important for everyone to feel valued, and so really spend time and get to understand what motivates each individual employee, to see how what their benefits are, what their strong suits are. I want to play to everyone's strengths. And I think that helps build a better company. I think that builds camaraderie amongst the teams.
Great point. One thing that a lot of CEOs find it really difficult is actually aligning corporate objectives with empowerment, because sometimes empowerment actually is not fully aligned with corporate objectives. What's your take on that? Do you think that it's a two-way street? It's on-off? Is it? What's your take on the balance of empowering Gen Z, which makes a lot of sense, but at the same time making sure that the company is heading away where sometimes this empowerment is not in line with those objectives?
I think it has to be aligned, right? I think that, it depends on your corporate objectives, which I would assume be making money, doing well for the environment, right? And maintaining your reputation. Obviously, there could be others, but I think we need to align empowering along with that. I think the empowering is of making good deals. For me, it's bringing information in, right? Get out there and have opinions, and what's the best deals we could be doing.
Okay. And back to a little bit on the combination of AI and blockchain. Do you see this a trend of a fusion of technologies, or would you say that blockchain will be very useful for AI, for traceability, and for let's call it preventing fake news or fake provenance? Do you see any other use cases where you'd say this makes a lot of sense, the combination of blockchain and AI?
So AI is based on data, and data, the importance of data and the provenance of data and good data makes that happen. I think blockchain actually provides data. So, and where the data is coming from, and that it is good data. So I think they are kind of a marriage of the best here, because the data from blockchain can help produce better AI. If your data is bad going into AI, you're going to have a bad project all in. So I think they're very important to work together. And that's kind of where I see that world going.
This leads to another challenging, I don't want to call it question, but another challenge that a lot of CIOs are facing as well, and even CEOs and data officers, is that how do you avoid bad data getting into the blockchain? Because that's a real possibility.
Data is expensive as well, so it's expensive. Cleaning up data is terribly expensive. I forget the exact numbers. I remember I knew this before. How do you preclude bad data from being included in the chain? I guess if we look at where data comes from and different data types, right? So if we're looking at loan data, for example, we're using the loans are actually done on chain, so the data that comes out is from real loans. If we are looking at carbon credits, the data that goes in are from the carbon credits, unless someone has inputted incorrectly. But the possibility, if we're looking at percentages, I would expect would be a lot lower from people just doing spreadsheets that bad data is included. I used to do commercial mortgage-backed securities. I was at Moody's for 12 years doing ratings. So all different types of deals. But we always started with a spreadsheet. And with a spreadsheet, we would input data for even the servicers of the transactions or loans would use a spreadsheet, probably from a previous deal. So there were errors in there that I think blockchain will help eliminate the errors, because so much of it is already pre-programmed and is not human input. It's done through technology.
Yeah, this leads to the question of oracles and the question of data validators and even multiple oracles, so that all the parties or all the stakeholders in an ecosystem can feel the trust and the comfort of providing data as well as extracting data. Do you think that there's still a lot of development needs in the area of oracles, or you think this is that technology or that concept has plateaued?
And that's a good question. It's will we continue to get better? And so I am not deep enough to understand the nitty-gritty, and not from a technical perspective. I'm more business. But I think we're always striving to do better. So would the technology increase in a couple years? Sure.
Yeah.
And I don't know what to expect. It's kind of the unknowns, right? The known unknowns as we continue to increase, like technology continues to increase.
Okay. So on a finishing note, because this is about finding the genius inside of people. Do you have a moment that you'd like to share on where you found someone genius or the genius of someone, and in those in some cases they're just regular, they're not superstars or pop stars or whatever you want to call it, or influencers, but they're just regular people that have some genius in them, and what would you and back to exploring and putting out the best of people, especially Gen Zs, and do you have an experience that you'd like to share?
I have experiences all the time, I think. And part of it is I love to meet people. And so I think one bit of advice I would say is show up, because it's kind of those events that you're tired and you don't want to go to. But I love to go to dinners. I love to go to events. I'm here for the Web Summit conference, which is less Web 3 than it is Web 2. But I still love having conversations with people. I did a tour yesterday, and some of the insights, just general human insights that I got from people on the tour, which were not business people, is always helpful and always opens my mind. And so every day having conversations with different folks, I feel I love to learn about them and learn more. and I feel that there's always key takeaways. But I do love the idea that Genius Inside, I think, is a brilliant title, because I think we all have some of it. It's kind of like what you learn from your parents, even if they're not business people, or what you learn, comments that different people made. So I think it helps even the millennials and Gen Z, as we said. I think there's different aspects that you can take away from commentary from them. So it's not necessarily one specific as much, but it has definitely helped me with time management, recognizing what's important, kind of not sweating the small stuff, but also recognizing there's no reason to get anxious or concerned about something we can't change. Just keep moving forward. I try to stay I'm a positive person, which is helpful, I think. But it just, I don't have the stresses, even though there's always things to stress about, but it's kind of take one thing at a time. So I think a lot of my day-to-day and my management is also recognizing the information that I've gotten from other people. I was asked to join a public board when I was actually, it was several years ago, and I'd never been a public CEO, and it was a public company, and I created my own board of directors, and those people had been CEOs, and asking them for input. I think that one thing in life is that we might overlook sometimes, is that people really want to help each other out. So finding people that you want to reach out to for advice has been very helpful. At Cadena, I just put together a advisory board of people that will question me, and that I can have people to have conversations with, and that will really push me to be my best self. And so I think it's great to have those people around. So regardless of how technology is improving, that human element you're never going to substitute. So I would continue to increase networks. I would continue to reflect, meet other people, and learn from them.
Yes. Thank you so much. It's been a great pleasure.